In the last 24 hours, a new phase of the war in Mali is emerging. Not a full invasion of the capital, but something more calculated. Armed groups are not storming Bamako, they are surrounding it, setting up checkpoints, disrupting movements, and testing the state and its capabilities and will to deal with the insurgency, and signaling something far more dangerous, a strategy not to seize the capital but to break it. Tonight, we'll update you on the unfolding battle for Mali and examine whether Bamako is under siege and whether the siege will lead to the takeover of Mali and eventually unraveling of the country. My name is Remande Shawulu. This is Update. The most critical developments in the last 48 hours include the following. Fighters linked to JNIM, that is the Jamaatul Nasr Aslam wa Muslimin, and their separatist elites have reportedly established checkpoints around Bamako. This, of course, is a major escalation because it marks transition from attack to containment. Intelligence and field reports confirm the following, that armed groups are operating on key access routes into the capital. Movement of goods and people is being monitored or disrupted. Some areas near Bamako are no longer fully secured. At the same time, insurgents have openly threatened to besiege the cities. But here is the critical distinction. There is no verified evidence that Bamako has been captured or is about to fall. Instead, what we're seeing is something far more strategic, something that may last longer. Contrary to popular perception, the goal of JNIM is not necessarily to capture Bamako, not at this moment. Some analysts believe that their objective is to weaken the state and force political change. Of course, when they force political change, they are able to do everything they want to do. And in any case, taking over the state means that they would have achieved their objectives. And this is a critical shift because taking a capital is difficult, but destabilizing it, this is far more achievable. And this is exactly what we're witnessing. Checkpoints instead of invasion, blockade tactics instead of occupation, psychological pressure instead of direct control. Bamako still holds. The rest of Mali tells a different story. In the north, Kidal remains outside government control following withdrawals by Malian forces and their Russian allies. In central Mali, there is Mopti and Saveri. These areas remain contested zones with repeated attacks and shifting control. In the east, parts of Gao are still held by government forces, but insurgents are expanding around them. And the pattern is clear. The state is holding cities but losing the space around those cities. Bamako itself has already been attacked. The April 25 offensive gunfire was reported near the airport. Strategic sites were targeted. Senior military leadership, including the Minister of Defense, was killed. These were not symbolic attacks, of course. They were probing operations. Today, the situation has evolved. The capital may not yet be collapsing, but it is under strain. Curfews have been imposed, and of course, disruptions include the cancellation of events. The security around the city have been tightened. The objective is clear. If you look at what the terrorists have done in the past, all through history or even in some parts of the world, they turned Bamako into a city under pressure without needing to capture it, weaken it to such an extent that whenever they want to take it, to be easy to take it. And for historians, people who know about the histories of war, stories of war, usually sieges lead eventually to the takeover of cities that are besieged, except help comes from outside the city. So the key question, can Bamako fall? Based on verified intelligence, a direct takeover remains unlikely in the immediate. The reasons for this are obvious. The capital remains heavily defended. Government forces are concentrated here, and urban warfare favors the people that are within the city defending it. And of course, help could come from outside, but that is not the real threat. The real threat is slow suffocation. If supply lines are disrupted, if checkpoints expand, if internal divisions within the government grow as they are bound to grow, as these insurgents besiege the city, then Bamako does not need to be captured. It only needs to be weakened. Another critical development, the Malian government is now investigating internal military collusion linked to the attacks. Arrests have begun. Suspicion is rising. This matters because no insurgency succeeds without fractures within the state. And right now, those fractures are beginning to show. And of course, these attacks and arrests of suspected informants or suspected collaborators of the insurgents may as well bring out new problems and new challenges that may further weaken the Malian response. And as Mali's battlefield expands, external actors are no longer on the sidelines. The most immediate intervention has come from the alliance of Sahel states, a security pact between Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, the countries that exited from the ECOWAS. In recent weeks, the AES has activated joint military deployments, moving troops across borders to reinforce vulnerable zones in northern and central Mali. These deployments include rapid reaction ground units, limited air support operations, cross-border intelligence coordination. But here is the operational reality. These forces are not large-scale expeditionary armies. They are stretched across three fragile states, each facing its own insurgencies. And so while AES intervention has helped stabilize some defensive lines, it has not reversed territorial losses in the north. In military terms, this is containment and not recovery. Along the AES, Mali has relied heavily on Russian support, primarily through what is now referred as the African Corps, the successor structure to the Wagner operations in the region. Russian involvement has included training Malian forces, providing tactical field support, securing high-value installations. In some engagement, these forces have contributed to successful defensive positions, particularly around key urban centers. But in the north, the record is far less favorable. The Russian-backed units were part of the withdrawal from Kidal, Tezlat, and Aguilhok. These are not minor positions. They were strategic strongholds, and their loss reflects deeper issues. Support can reinforce an army, but it cannot compensate for structural weaknesses in territorial control. Then there is the Economic Community of West Africa, ECOWAS, the region's traditional security framework, which the AES withdrew from. ECOWAS had successfully undertaken some operations in the past, notably in Sierra Leone and Liberia, where they fought and drove out insurgents too. Unlike the AES, ECOWAS has not deployed troops to Mali during this crisis, and that is not by accident. Relations between Mali and ECOWAS have deteriorated sharply in recent years, particularly after sanctions, political disputes, and Mali's withdrawal from the bloc structures. Today, ECOWAS remains largely on the diplomatic sidelines, calling for stability, monitoring the situation, but not intervening militarily. This, of course, creates a fragmented regional response. AES actively engaged but limited in capacity. Russia tactically involved but strategically constrained. ECOWAS politically relevant but operationally absent. And that, of course, is fragmentation, and that is the problem again. And of course, it is to be noted that this problem that Mali is facing may not end in Mali. It will go down to affect several other African states, so several other ECOWAS members. When you factor in foreign intervention, the picture now becomes very clear. Despite the deployment of AES forces and Russian support, the insurgents have managed to expand operational reach, coordinate multi-front attacks, pressure the capital without direct confrontation. This suggests a critical reality. External intervention has slowed the pace of the collapse, but it has not changed the trajectory of the war. Mali is still in trouble. What we're witnessing is not just a national crisis. It is a test of the regional security architecture in West Africa. The Sahel states have stepped forward, but they lack the scale to decisively defeat the insurgency. Russia has stepped in, but has not prevented territorial losses. ECOWAS remains influential but absent from the battlefield. And in that gap, armed groups are expanding. Bamako may not fall today, but the system designed to protect it is under strain. And if that system fails, the consequences will not stop in Mali. They will reshape the Sahel and indeed the whole of the ECOWAS. Earlier, the ECOWAS and regional leaders realized that what happens in Mali, especially in this type of insurgency, does not stop and will not stop in Mali. the better for the whole of the region. My name is Rumande Shawulu. This is Update from the Other Side.